Today I'm going to show you how I create a luxurious holiday shoot with the theme of gold and a creative technique called shutter drag. Hey everybody, Lindsay Adler here, and happy holidays. Now, the concept of today's shoot is gold on more gold. And the reason that I want to do this for my holiday shoot is because, of course, I want to create imagery that's unusual, it's eye-catching, it fits my style, it's great for social media or holiday cards, but also I want to create the type of imagery I want to be hired for. I want to create images that are glamorous, luxurious, and have a dash of creativity. So that's what you're going to see in today's holiday shoot. So let's talk about the elements that I put in front of my camera, because that's really the key ingredient of where a successful shoot starts. So first of all, let's begin with our background. In this shot, I'm using a Gravity Backdrops hand-painted background, but I had it specially made for me with a gold paint. I knew that this shoot was coming up, and so I reached out and had this made for me. So it's going to be the perfect backdrop. Then, of course, is the styling. We have this beautiful gold styling, beautiful gold makeup. But then I needed to add something to make it a little bit more holiday. So what we did is we took a gold box, we wrapped it in gold wrapping paper, and then I went to the dollar store, I bought some snowflakes that were covered in gold glitter, and we super glued it to the side of the box. So this helps it look like something that isn't just a cheap Christmas present, but it looks elevated and it looks luxury, which is exactly my goal. We've got our concept, our beautiful set, our stunning model, but now it's time to talk a little bit about the lighting that I have set up. Now this lighting is going to be a little bit creative and a little bit unusual, but that's because I want to add something extra and eye-catching. So let's break it down. The first light that I have slightly to the left-hand side of the frame is a ProPhoto D2 with a silver beauty dish and a grid. Now the reason that I chose a silver beauty dish is because I wanted beautiful light on her face that's very flattering and glowing, but the silver is going to give it a little bit more pop, a little bit more contrast, and it's going to make the sparkles and the specular highlight on the gold of her dress really, really pop. I've added a grid because I want to concentrate the light. So fundamentally, she's going to have beautiful glowing light around her face and her torso, but towards the bottom of the dress, it's going to fall off to shadow. And this is going to be important later on. All right, so let's take a look at what that first light does to our scene. Okay, so you can see that beautiful light from the silver beauty dish with a grid. Now, one of the things that's really nice about using the gold background is that even though I don't have a background light on, if you only have one light, since it's metallic, it actually is catching a little bit of the light from the beauty dish and creating some separation and glow. That being said, I envision this shot being really polished, having almost like a halo glow behind my subject, and so that's why I'm going to add my second strobe. The second strobe is to the right-hand side of the frame, and it has a 20-degree grid. So the 20-degree grid is going to concentrate the light, and I have it pointed directly behind my subject. So what this does is it adds a beautiful halo and a beautiful glow of light directly behind my subject. So let's take a look at what the second strobe is adding to the scene. All right, so even though I think one light would have been fine, I think the second strobe adds a little bit more dimension. It's looking really luxurious, and it's really emphasizing that gold on gold. But here is where I start to introduce the creative technique, and that is with our third light source, but it isn't going to be a strobe. My third light source needs to be a constant light of any sort. I could use a flashlight, a work light, a NAND light, but in this case, I'm going to use just a modeling light. I'm going to add another strobe, but I'm going to turn it off so it's not going to fire. That light, I'm going to point at the lower part of the subject's dress, and I'm going to use it to illuminate it, to help it glow. I'm going to show you why in a moment, but let's actually just take a shot with that third light source, the constant light, and I'm specifically putting a 10-degree grid on it. I don't want that constant light to hit her head to toe, I just want it to light the bottom part of the dress. And again, it's not firing, it is just a constant light. Great. So let's take a shot. So what is the difference that you can see in this shot now that I've added a third light source, the constant light? And the answer should be basically nothing. And the reason is right now I'm shooting at ISO 500, f5.6, 1/200th of a second. And at those camera settings, my constant light is not registering, it's not showing up. Basically what that camera setting is doing is it's eliminating most of the ambient light in the room. Those are the settings for the strobes. So how do I make the constant light show up? And this is something called dragging the shutter. I have several other YouTube videos that go into this far more in depth, and I've put them in the links below. So if this concept is totally new to you, you should definitely check those out. But fundamentally what I need to do is use a slower, a longer shutter speed. And during that longer shutter speed, it's going to start to register that constant light. And so that's how I'm going to see the sparkles on the bottom of the dress. Now, as I explained in these other YouTube videos, what really makes this creative, what really makes this unique is when you introduce a little bit of motion of your camera. And so I'm going to zoom my lens, move my camera, and so what'll happen is not only will I register the light on the bottom of the dress, but I'm going to start to get these beautiful streaks of light, these textures of light. Now, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to use this longer shutter speed. And I'm going to go for, let's see, maybe a half of a second and show you the difference. All right, by shooting at a half of a second, what that did is it left the shutter open long enough to start to show the ambient light. But you can see that the shot probably, although it looks creative, looks a little bit accidental. And that's because there's a little bit of a haze and blur on her face and on the background, and it's kind of everywhere in the shot. And that's because there is a lot of ambient light on. There's a light on my face. There's a light on in the room. There's the modeling lights from the beauty dish and the modeling light on the background light. So any constant light that I do not want to show up in the shot, I have to turn it off now. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to turn off all the ambient light and try that again. Okay, so now what you're actually seeing is just that constant light, just the grid on the left-hand side of the frame that's pointed at the bottom of the dress, that's starting to register. And because I zoomed my camera a little bit and moved it, not only does it register, but it creates those beautiful streaks. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about shutter drag and camera movement. And so I think that although the gold on gold is beautiful, I could shoot it with just a silver beauty dish and a grid on the face, or add a second strobe to the background. Adding that constant light with a shutter drag, it just adds a little bit something extra. As I'm shooting these images today, I'm going to be shooting with the Canon R5 and the Canon RF 24-105. Now the key part of this entire equation is that I have something that I can zoom. You do need a zoom lens because it's the zooms and the movement of my camera side to side and the camera shake that is going to allow me to create those really unique blurs. When you're using a fixed focal length lens or a prime, for example, you'll have to do a lot more camera movement or have the subject move. So I think having the zoom gives me just one more layer and variable for creativity. So now that I have all the ingredients set up, what I'm going to do is get that shot. All right. All right, guys, what do you think of our holiday shots? Because I love them. They are so luxurious, and it's exactly what I was going for. Now, have you ever tried a different approach to a holiday image? And if you have, I'd love to see them. So be sure to drop a link in the comments below. And by the way, I have some suggestions for some holiday gift buying that maybe you're buying for yourself or buying for a fellow photographer. If you like this kind of setup and you like this kind of creative approach, be sure to check out my creative lighting guides. If you go to learnwithlindsay.com, I have tons of different lighting recipe guides that take you through every element that you need to know, from the camera settings to the power of the light, the distance of the light, the modifiers, behind the scenes diagrams, and so much more. So you have everything that you need to know to be able to recreate the shots. And of course, for this setup, I've been shooting with some of my favorite gear. So if you want to check out the gear that I was using for these images, be sure to check out the links in the description below and visit adorama.com. Now everybody, I hope that you have a wonderful holiday. And if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe because I've got so much more content just like this one coming your way. Happy holidays.